Hi, I'm Daniel Leiva. This is Entrepreneurship 101, inspiring entrepreneurs to rise, innovate, and create lasting impact. And today I have my special guest. He's the founder of Echo Water and, of course, the Luminova, none other than Dr. Paul Baratero.
Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Paul, on Entrepreneurship 101. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
No problem. So, I am an entrepreneur. I started my first company in high school. And I've been a part of 3 companies, and I've founded 9 companies in my career. So I do enjoy helping people not feel pain. Primarily, all of the companies that I have founded were health and wellness related, having to do with helping people not have pain and not have diseases. And the whole reason that I do the things I do primarily was because my wife was really sick 20 years ago. And that's why I founded Echo Water, was because after helping her heal 20 years ago, 18 years ago, that's why Echo Water exists, is because I helped my wife heal. So, everything that I do is to help people, serve people, and not have them have disease models that are unnecessary.
Well, Dr. Paul, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world here on Entrepreneurship 101. We celebrate you with my cheering squad. Thank you for those innovations. So today, let's talk about being the founder of Luminova. So tell us, you spent over 20 years in health and wellness. What made you focus specifically on red light therapy as the modality worth building a company around? And what did you see the most people are still missing?
So 5 years ago, I created the bed that you see on the right there, the LumaPod Pro, and got the patent on that in 2020. And that was because I was creating a red light bed to be able to be used in commercial spaces where it would not overheat when used for 20 hours straight. Later, I have a son who's 23 years old, and he ended up getting hit while riding a bike in Scottsdale, Arizona. He was riding a bike, and he was hit by a truck and ended up getting a concussion. And so I really wanted to help him not have lasting effects from concussions, traumatic brain injury. And so that's another reason why I'm really passionate about red light, and of course hydrogen, is together they were able to help him. And of course, there were many other things that we did: hyperbaric chamber, we did craniosacral therapies, we did biofeedback and neurofeedback. There's all kinds of things that we did with him. But I'm very passionate about red and infrared light and UVB light to create vitamin D3 in the body, because many, many people in the world are deficient in vitamin D3, and they don't get enough light in their life. So really, I wanted to create a company, 6 years ago, that would help people get the light, the therapeutic light that they need into their body, even though they have a lifestyle that has them in offices and not outside.
Dr. Paul, you talk about performance-based, a red light therapy. What is the difference between performance-based and the cheap LED devices flooding on Amazon? And how consumer tell which without a science degree?
It's actually really difficult because most of the red light products on Amazon or other places, they do not have a therapeutic level of red light. In other words, it's called irradiance. The irradiance of the light is the power, or how bright the LEDs are. And so in the Luminova products, we use a higher level of LEDs that have higher power, so that they can actually penetrate and get into the body. So many of the products on the market I just call Christmas tree lights, because that's about what they are, is Christmas tree lights being sold as therapy. With the red light bed that we have, the Lumapod, it is the highest performing bed in the world as far as a red light bed goes. And so we really want to make sure that people have the benefits that the scientific literature is showing is available to them. But the problem is when people buy products that are cheap and not having the proper brightness of the light, they're not going to experience the tremendous benefits of red light and infrared light, because you just don't have a therapeutic level. There are currently multiple lawsuits from red light bed companies now that were claiming high irradiance numbers, like 165 milliwatts per centimeter squared. But when they were tested by an independent laboratory, like we've tested our beds, the actual irradiance was not 165, it was 9 to
Mm.
13. And they were selling these beds for $125,000, twice as much is what we charge for our beds. And yet our bed has almost 74 milliwatts per centimeter squared, and these other beds had 9. And that's the big difference, is when you have 9 milliwatts, you're not going to get a therapeutic session in 10 or 15 or 20 minutes. You would have to be in there 30 minutes to an hour, even to have any benefits from that bed. Whereas our bed, you could in 8 minutes have a therapeutic level of light. And so it's a very different outcome for the individual. They will feel the difference when they get into a Luminova product versus other products.
Well said, Dr. Paul. And you've said red light therapy supports mitochondrial ATP production. In
Yep.
plain English, what does a better mitochondrial functions feel like if someone a daily energy, mood, and recovery, not just on a lab report?
Well, people who have issues with fatigue or have low energy during the day, they can have an increase of energy. People that aren't sleeping well and have to maybe take medications to sleep, they can sleep better after having proper red light and infrared light. People that have skin issues or other issues on their body, they can get benefited. People that have inflammation in their joints and other things can be benefited. So all of these things have to do with mitochondria, because mitochondria produces ATP. ATP is where you get your energy from. And to do everything your body does on a daily basis, you need energy, or ATP. This is how your body has energy. It's like a battery. If the battery in a cell phone goes down, you can't use it. If the energy in your body goes down, you're not going to be able to heal. You're not going to be able to do all the things that you want to do every day.
And thank you for that tips, Dr. Paul. Research says therapeutic benefits depends on wavelength specifically, irradiance, exposure time, and cumulative energy delivery. Which of those four is the most commonly messed up by the consumer devices, and what is the consequence?
The most common item there that you just mentioned is the irradiance, or the power, or the amount of light that the devices are producing. Like, you have these sleeping bag products on the market that other companies are selling, and they are committing fraud every day by putting on their website that it's 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared. It is impossible for a sleeping bag product to ever get. It's impossible for a red light bed to get to 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared. And unfortunately, what's happening is these companies are buying private label products from manufacturers in China, and the manufacturers in China are telling them it's 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared, and it's most likely 1 milliwatt per centimeter squared. So literally, they are claiming on their website 100 times what the reality is, and that is fraud. So that's the big thing that people need to understand, is that the wavelengths are correct. We would assume that if the product says it has 660 nanometers and 850 nanometers, that it actually is pretty close to that. The problem is always the brightness or the irradiance of the light is completely different than what these companies are claiming.
You distinguish Lumanova from commodity wellness lighting products. What specific claim you see from a competitor that made you cringe, and what is biologically wrong?
Well, biologically, you're not going to have the benefits that the scientific studies show you should be having, because you do not have the brightness or the level of light that you need. When you go out in the sun, you feel that. You feel that on your skin, you feel that warmth, you feel that. When you go into a light product, you should be able to feel that light, and most times you do not. It's very, very light. And so that's a big, huge problem with, biologically speaking, that they're not getting the level of light. So therefore they're not going to get the effects that are you're supposed to get. Now, the problem is these companies selling them the product, they will reference the studies, but now the consumer is led to believe that they're going to get that benefit, but they're not actually going to get the benefit, because the product they're buying isn't providing the level of light in joules that is needed to change the function of the body, or to affect the cell viability, or to affect mitochondria or joints or anything like that. And so basically it's a bait and switch, where people are talking about the studies, but they're not providing a product that actually is going to deliver those benefits.
You've been a guest on the Dr. Mindy Pulse podcast, the Ultimate Human podcast, and others. What
Yeah.
question host asks you repeatedly that tells you how confused the general public still is about light therapy?
Well, so the general public knows that light therapy is good. They know that red light and infrared light has tremendous benefits. I believe that most people, or a big percentage of the population, believes that. The real problem is education. They don't understand that buying, a $50 product or a $100 product is not going to accomplish what they're thinking it's going to accomplish. That's the real problem, is they will go buy face masks, or they go buy these little products that are inexpensive, and you cannot expect for that to do what a red light bed will do, or what a high-end red light product that's properly engineered to deliver a therapeutic dosage of light to the body. It's day and night difference. We ship 3 to 5 beds a week to clinics, to med spas, to hotels that have med spas, wellness facilities, franchises. This is what we do every day. And there's a big difference. People that get into a Lumapod or a Lumapod Pro beds will feel huge difference between other beds on the market. Even though the price of those other beds might be higher or lower, it doesn't matter. People should not be shopping based on price. They should be shopping based on independent third-party studies being done. And all of these manufacturers should be having a third-party laboratory test the irradiance of their products and actually publish true numbers or truth about their product, instead of fraudulent numbers every day, because the consumer is the one getting hurt. That's the problem, is these companies are committing fraud and selling products, and not at all are the consumers getting what they think they're getting. And that's sad to me. And that's what we want to change. That's why Luminova is what it is. We state the third party validated studies on our beds, so that we put that information out there. We don't make fraudulent claims on our website about irradiance. We just don't do those things. Now, are there products that, so one person can afford a $1,000 bed? Maybe another person cannot. And so all they can afford is a $1,600 sleeping bag type product. But there's a huge difference between one sleeping bag versus another sleeping bag. Just because they look similar doesn't mean it's the same thing. And just because a website says 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared does not mean that's truth. If they do not have an independent third-party lab test showing what that irradiance is, then they should not be making a claim.
Dr. Paul, you said red light therapy supports muscles
Yep.
recovery, tissue
Yep.
repair, and sleep quality.
Yep.
For an athlete or weekend warrior, what is the fastest benefit they notice in the first 2 weeks of proper use?
Well, 2 weeks is a long time. You would actually notice difference in muscles within one treatment if they were in one of our beds. And if they're in our bed, they're going to notice a significant difference in muscle recovery, and recovery in general will speed up. And if you combine the Echo Water and the Luminova red light products, now that recovery is down 90%. So instead of having an hour or two of recovery, you have like 15 minutes of recovery. That's a huge difference for athletes. We do have professional teams using Echo Water. We would like to have professional teams using the Lumipod in their locker rooms for their athletes, and they would notice huge differences in the performance and recovery of their athletes.
Eco Water plus Luminova. Yes, definitely. You also mentioned cognitive clarity and mood regulation. How does light affect the brain, and what's happening neurologically when someone feels sharper after a season?
Yeah. So red light is not going to penetrate into the brain, but infrared will get through the head. And so what we need to understand is that red light is not going to pass through, but infrared will. And a lot of times in the Lumipod, for example, you have three wavelengths of infrared light: 810, 850, and 940. A lot of times people have stroke, and you can help them with getting into infrared light. And there are many studies showing that stroke and other cognitive issues can be benefited by infrared light. And so having the person get into a red light bed that has appropriate power and irradiance, you can see significant improvements with cognitive function and other things. Again, I would combine that with Echo Water because there are tons of studies on Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and other issues neurologically that can be benefited because hydrogen will stimulate gastric ghrelin, and gastric ghrelin will go to the hippocampus, the hypothalamus, and brainstem. So again, it's a stacking effect. You're going to want Echo Water, and you're going to want to get infrared light into that person's brain, and you can significantly affect them. There are 3,000 studies related to hydrogen, but there's over 5,000 studies related to red and infrared light. Both of these modalities are well studied and have wonderful benefits that people can study.
Dr. Paul, you talk about circadian rhythm alignment as a benefit. How does
Mhm.
red light therapy differ from morning sunlight, and should people use both?
I would say they would use both. There's nothing better than morning sunlight when you are getting up in the morning to go into the sun and just allow that light to be with you. However, not everybody is getting up in the morning. Not everybody is good at going to bed early and getting up early. So if someone can't get up and see that morning light, that's exactly the kind of person that should be purchasing a good red light bed or a high quality sleeping bag product like we sell, and get in that every single day so that you can have red and infrared light in your body. The thing that the sun includes is UVA and UVB light as well. which, depending on where you live and what time of year it is, you can get vitamin D. But at Luminova, we have a Luma D Light, which is a vitamin D light that's been perfected and patented so that you can have perfect vitamin D levels and like double your vitamin D levels in 90 days. There are a lot of people like myself. I live in Utah, and during the time of year that's wintertime, we don't get UV in the sun. And so understand that that's the great opportunity to have a UVB light that can stimulate vitamin D in the body. Those are the kind of things we do with light that no other company is doing.
Well said, Dr. Paul. Can you hear me, Dr. Paul?
Yes. Yes.
So you founded, or you also founded EcoWater, focus on molecular hydrogen to reduce oxidative stress. How do red light therapy and hydrogen therapy complement each other?
Well, effectively, they're doing similar things, but through different mechanisms in the body. One is hydrogen gas, which is reducing oxidative stress and inflammation. And red light is doing a similar thing, but through different mechanisms. So there are tremendous benefits for being able to use both therapies at one time. And let's talk about, EcoWater. EcoWater is mimicking what the body should do naturally. The body is designed to produce hydrogen gas in the intestinal tract. And so that's really important to understand, that when people have gut damage, they are not able to produce hydrogen gas the way they're supposed to. And so the result is oxidative stress and chronic inflammation. Same is true for Luminova. What are we mimicking? The sun. Not everybody goes into the sun. Not everybody gets enough light into their life. So when you use EcoWater and Luminova, you're basically mimicking what the body should be doing naturally when you have lost that ability because of gut damage. And for Luminova, you're doing what you could receive if you went in the sun every day. Well, not everyone can go in the sun. Again, if you live in an area where it gets cold in the wintertime, you're not going to have UV light in that sunshine, and it's cold outside. Why? Who thinks that someone's going to go outside in a bathing suit when it's cold outside? So again, all of these things that I've created mimic nature and mimic what you need on a daily basis if your lifestyle can't get you that normally and naturally. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, Dr. Paul, and thank you so much for sharing to the world. We have two companies targeting cellular health from different angles, which are the harder to explain to a skeptical consumer and why.
It's the hydrogen is harder than red light because, in general, people have an opinion that red light is good and that it does great things for the body. So the education level of the normal person walking around this planet is higher on red light than on hydrogen. People do not understand that hydrogen gas is supposed to be produced in the body. And if you dissolve hydrogen gas into water, that can get into your body and help you make stomach acid properly, help your brain function properly, help your joints function properly, lower pain, and help people lose weight even. And so whether it's eye improvement or weight loss or what have you, hydrogen has tremendous benefits. But because the vast population of people on the earth do not understand that hydrogen gas such tremendous benefits, they think it's a scam. So when you say the words hydrogen water, the first thing people say is, isn't hydrogen already in water? And the answer is no, it's not. There's no hydrogen gas in water. Yes, water is H2O, but those were two gases, hydrogen and oxygen, that were combined. They're no longer in gas form. And so what we are doing with echo devices is we're separating water molecules back into oxygen and hydrogen gas, a small percentage of them, and we're sending oxygen out to the air to breathe, and we're putting hydrogen into the water in a dissolved state. People don't really understand this, so they don't understand what hydrogen water is or what eco water is, but we're trying to do a better job of educating them. When it comes to red light, they understand it. It's real simple. I'm going to get in this bed that has red light going on my body, and I'm going to have these benefits. So it is more simple for them to understand, even though they don't understand the science behind it. They have an opinion that it is good. When it comes to hydrogen, they don't understand the science, and they don't understand the role of hydrogen in the human body.
And Dr. Paul, I'm inviting you again to please do come over and let's talk about the eco water itself. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Book 101 Review and Abstract Essay, wherever you listen your podcast. You said your mission is to position red light therapy as a foundational tool for every cellular resilience, not a trend. What would have to happen for it becomes a mainstream as a vitamin D or magnesium?
Well, yeah, we just need more education and more time for people to understand how much it can truly help them. That's really what's going to happen. As more and more people are educated, then more and more people will choose to utilize these modalities, feel the benefits, and then tell someone else about it. And that's normally what will happen. The issue is, you know, hydrogen and red light were moving forward rapidly. And then, of course, the world had COVID. And all of a sudden, medical advancements stopped for a period of 2 to 3 years. And so now we're picking back up, and the whole world is now very eager to learn about things that can help them feel better. And so I think the whole world is getting more educated and trying to understand natural things more so than prior to 2020.
Well said, Dr. Paul. So, can you please invite our listeners to support Eco Water as well as the Lumen?
Yes, please go to Echo Water, ECHO, echowater.com, and at least purchase a flask to start feeling better. Please go to Lumanova, LUMANOVA.com, and please purchase whatever you can afford. We have everything from $80 to $90,000, so we'll meet you where you are. And anyone that wants to know the studies, we have a website, hydrogenstudies.com, and we have redlightstudies.com.
Indeed, people, let's support Dr. Paul, because if you support him, for sure more and more empowering breakthrough like this to rise. I have one more question, Dr. Paul. Finally, someone listening right now who is exhausted, flame, sleeping poorly, and has tried everything. Supplements, diets, expensive gadget, and at work. What is the one question you want them to ask themselves about cellular health that they never considered before?
Why aren't they just getting Echo Water and Luminova? Honestly, it will help them feel better. It's really simple. The modality of drinking water is very easy, and getting proper sleep, that will help you for sure.
Well, Dr. Paul, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Monica people, see you soon. Please do come over